Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science here in New York City. Whether you're joining us in our studio audience or whether you're joining us virtually, you're welcome to the center. Many of you have been with us since our guided meditation began this morning, and some of you are still signing in right now, so you're all welcome. You're all part of, this is one of the largest virtual gatherings around, so we want to give you a warm welcome. All of our broadcasts are offered free of charge. We deeply appreciate those of you who do choose to support us financially. And you'll note in the chat room on the Zoom call, there's options to support First Church if you would like. Also, if you're watching via any of the social media platforms, there's options there as well. A quick reminder, every Wednesday evening, James, our practitioner here, facilitates our Creative Living series at 7 p.m. And I host the Thursday evening Louise, Hey, You Can Heal Your Life gathering every Thursday at 7. Each of these are wonderful opportunities to deepen your spiritual practice, to remember the truth of who you are, and we'd love to have you join us. So on to today's lesson. Today's lesson is titled Living Uncommon. I looked at that title a little bit. I usually look for catchy titles, but it is today's title, so you can imagine what it is to live uncommon. I'll explain it further. So we're going to go deep into how we can embrace the extraordinary power within each and every one of us. So without further ado, let's begin with the message. I first paraphrased Ralph Waldo Emerson's, one of his passages in his essay, Self-Reliance, for you. And here it is. There comes a time in each person's life when they realize that comparing themselves to others is a mistake. And trying to be like anyone else only will limit who you really are, your true potential. The universe is full of possibilities, but the only way to unlock those possibilities is by being fully embracing. It's the only way you can unlock your own personal possibilities is to fully embrace who you are. The power within each of us is unique. Unlike anything else in nature, this power within you is unlike anything that's ever been before. And it's only by trusting in this power within you and by using it that we discover what we are truly capable of. So let that sink in. This is from Emerson again. There comes a time in your life when you realize that comparing yourself to others is a mistake because you are so unique. And if you try to be like anyone else or anything else, it will limit what your true potential really is. And again, the universe is full of possibilities, and the only way to unlock your own unique possibilities is by embracing who you are. So understand that you're 1 in a billion and unique and rare, and there's never been anything like you before. So we want to trust this power and begin to use it more and more. So let that idea come right into your consciousness. You might say, I'm one with the one. Emerson's wake-up message is simple, but it's also, it's a real wake-up call. You hold within you a power that's so unlike anything else in this world. So let's think about it a moment. There's never ever been and never will be another you. This power, this divine spark inside of you is not just sitting there, it's alive. It's ready to respond to you. You might say, I'm one with the one. It's alive and it's in me, operating through me, ready to respond to me. And it's waiting for you to wake up. Wake up to it. I was told when I was in my mid-20s by another minister, it's the best kept secret in the world. And they would say, that spirit in you, that God, that spirit, that this higher something is within you. It's alive in you. So it's the best kept secret. And all of us want to remember who we are. And we want to keep waking up and realizing I'm one with the one. But here's the thing. This power won't show itself until you fully trust in it. So you have an idea of it. You have to learn to affirm it more and trust it and put it to use. When they used to teach affirmative prayer to people in classes, they would have us doing affirmative prayers for simple things like parking spaces and all kinds of small things. Because what they wanted you to do is begin realizing you have the power and know that this is here for you, and begin to use your affirmations and trust it and start to see for yourself. Not because the minister or the teacher told you, but you have this power within you. So this is something we're always going to be encouraging you to do, is practice, practice, practice. Again, here's the thing. The power won't show itself to you, or at least not fully, until you trust it, until you act on it. We spend a lot of time in our lives looking outside ourselves for answers. You're looking for the right partner, the right job. You're looking for someone to say you're okay. You're looking for external answers, approval, sometimes guidance, validation. But everything you need, and everything you're looking for is already within you. Emerson was reminding us that the only way to experience the true abundance and true potential of life is by using the power that lives within you. And Ernest Holmes so beautifully said, there is power for good in the universe, and you can use it. The full quote was actually, there is power for good in the universe greater than you, of which you are a part, and you can use it. In fact, you're always using it. You may not be using it consciously, but life is acting and responding to you 24 hours a day. So when we come into this teaching, we want to use this power more intelligently. This power is not something you have to wish for. It's already there. You can look at yourself in the eyes, in the mirror, and you can say, I love, accept, and approve of you. And you can connect with that energy. That power is within you, responding to you. Again, it's not something that you have to wish for. You don't have to do anything to earn it, have it to come into your being. It's already there. You are part of it. It's part of you. The moment you begin to trust in your power, to trust in this higher aspect of yourself, you'll see how quickly it responds to you. Half of the thing I've learned over the years is learning to align myself with it. In early religious science classes, they would say some of its attributes are that it's peace, power, love, joy, beauty, and wisdom. So we begin to align ourselves with some of those higher aspects of ourselves. We know as we practice this teaching more and more, as we realize that we're one with it, we realize the power moves through our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. But we need to invite it in. It's like a muscle. You have to use it for it to grow. Now, Emerson said this power is new in nature. Now, what did he mean by that? That this power is new in nature. It means that your power is fresh. Your power within you is original and it's unmatched. There is nothing like it in this world. And guess what? It is within you. The universe didn't make you as a copy of something else. Each one of us is a one-of-a-kind expression of this infinite power. When you tap into that, when you start to live from that place, when you start to live from that place of trust in yourself and the source within you, guess what? The possibilities are totally limitless. So if you connect with spirit, you realize I'm one with the one. And you really wake up to the fact that I live, I move, and I have my being in it. I'm a point of power within it. The possibilities for you are limitless when you connect with it. I used to have a great spiritual therapist years ago. She would always ask the question of her classes, are you coming from connection? It's a great question. When you are consciously connecting with spirit and realizing that you are one with it, you're coming from connection. And when you do this, the possibilities are limitless. This isn't just a nice idea, it's a truth. You're not limited by your past. You're not limited by what other people have told you. You're not limited by what society expects of you either. You, all of us, each of us, are vessels for this infinite power. And when we awaken to that idea, when you realize it's been there all along, then you start to use it more consciously, deliberately, and life responds to you. It responds to you in ways that are beyond your wildest dreams. This is the power of living uncommon. This is what we're talking about today. Today we embark on the journey of remembering who we really are. We embark on the journey of realizing that we are expressions of this one infinite energy. Every single moment of our lives is an opportunity to awaken to this truth. Now we forget. So we remember. There's that saying, remembering and forgetting. It's the game we play. But as we plug into these lessons week after week, and as we join in community and fellowship, we're supporting each other in remembering who we are, what we are. Every moment of our lives, again, is an opportunity to awaken to this truth and to live from this place. Living uncommon is about more than standing out. It's about realizing and embracing our unique connection to the creative force that moves through all of life. It's about discovering your oneness with the extraordinary, your oneness with the power and the presence that's always inside of you. Think of your life, if you will, as a river. Sometimes it flows gently, sometimes it rushes with intensity, but in every single moment, it's part of the same vast ocean of energy. This energy, this source, this incredible source is within you right now. You live in it, you move in it, you have your being in it. Our journey today will remind us all of this connection we have. And we'll explore a little bit how living uncommon, how discovering our oneness with the extraordinary allows us to live lives that are filled with peace, joy, and purpose. So before we get into today's teaching, let's take a moment to understand the profound significance of the phrase, I am. I am. This isn't just a phrase, it's a key to understanding your divine nature. When Moses asked for God's name, the answer he received was, I am that I am. I am that I am. That wasn't a name in the sense of an identity. It speaks of a presence. It speaks of a divine energy that flows through everything and everyone. In living uncommon, we recognize the power of I am within us. It allows us to discover our oneness with the extraordinary. Each time you say I am, each time we say I am, we're affirming our oneness with Source, and how we complete the phrase shapes our entire experience. By aligning our I am statements with truth, we open up doors to infinite possibilities. Let me share a story of someone who lived his I am fully, gloriously. It was George Washington Carver. Some of you may remember him. He was born into slavery. Carver could have allowed his circumstances to completely define his life, but instead he tapped into something far greater. He tapped into the infinite intelligence that we're speaking of today. He's tapped into this oneness that he has and the divine energy within him. Carver famously said, I love to think of nature as an unlimited broadcasting station. Again, he said, I love to think of nature as an unlimited broadcasting station through which this power speaks to us in every hour, if we will only tune into it. So that's a beautiful idea. I'll say it one more time. I love to think of nature as an unlimited broadcasting station through which this power, this God speaks to us in every hour if we will only tune in. Carver would spend hours and hours in the fields, communing with the plants, asking them to reveal their secrets to him. He had incredible discoveries, and his discoveries changed the face of agriculture forever. From his innovative use of peanuts to crop rotation methods that help farmers restore their land. His whole life teaches us and taught us that living uncommon is about seeing beyond what the world tells us is possible. That's really, in essence, what the whole transcendental movement was looking beyond the apparent reality to something greater. So Carver's life exemplified that. But now back to the I am statement. When you declare I am capable or I am a vessel for divine wisdom, you open yourself up to infinite potential. The infinite potential that is in you. So when you make these statements, you're opening yourself up to this potential that you have. Just as Carver saw beyond the surface of the plants, we too can discover our own oneness with the extraordinary by listening to this guidance within, the still voice, by sitting in silence and listening. The guidance will always come. And then I thought there's another modern day example of someone living uncommon. Her name is Elizabeth Gilbert. You may not know of her. She was the author of a book, Eat, Pray, and Love. Many of you may know of her through a movie a few years ago where she was portrayed by Julia Roberts. But let's take the moment to explore who she is and how she came to embody the principle of discovering her oneness with the extraordinary. Gilbert started out as a successful author, journalist, novelist, and despite her success, her outward success, she found herself deeply unhappy in her personal life. After a very heart-wrenching, painful divorce, she set on a one-year trip, a year-long journey to places like Bali and Italy. Her book, Eat, Pray, and Love, became a bestseller because it resonated so deeply with so many people who are also seeking deeper meaning in life beyond whatever success they had in their jobs. In her journey, Gilbert learned to embrace uncertainty. So that's an important principle here. Learning to embrace uncertainty, to let go of what is expected of you by society, and to listen to your inner self. She spent months in an ashram in India also. She learned the power of meditation, the power of silence, learning to trust the process of life, learning to surrender. And as she opened herself up to this inflow of inspiration, she began to discover her oneness with the extraordinary and the beauty of the simple present moment that we talk of every week here. We always talk about being in a new moment, dropping all the stories. In one part of her journey, Gilbert describes sitting in meditation for a long time, for hours, feeling restless and disconnected. But after weeks of doing this, meditating, she had a breakthrough where she felt a deep connection with spirit. She felt a wave of peace and clarity that she'd never experienced before. And she wrote, it was like coming home to myself for the first time in many, many years. This is what living uncommon is about. It's about getting back to what we call the garden, or getting back or coming home to the truth of who you are. Not what the world tells you at all, but what you know deep within the center of your being. One of the greatest tools we have in living uncommon is the choice to be a love finder rather than a fault finder. You've heard me talk about this many times before. Are you a love finder or are you a fault finder? Are you coming from a place of connection where you seeing the good in everyone? Or are you coming from a place of being critical? Are you the fault finder? You might know that I got most of that language from Jerry Jampolsky. This teaching was brought forward again by him, Jerry Jampolsky, in his work with attitudinal healing. And in it, it invites us to see life through the eyes of love and connection. Many of us, if not all of us, can remember a time in our life where we're struggling in a relationship of one kind or another, where every interaction might have seemed like a battlefield, lots of tension, many highly charged words and actions, and a lot of misunderstandings. In moments like these, it's easy to focus on everything that's wrong. We zero in on the flaws of the other person. We zero in what's lacking, what's missing, and what the other person isn't doing. When this type of thing happens, we become fault finders. We search for mistakes. We recite mistakes. We focus on shortcomings. And there are all kinds of reasons for us to be upset or right. But what happens if we could make a shift instead of doing all of that? Or instead, when we find ourselves going in that direction, what happens if we make a shift? What would it look like if instead of being a person who's finding fault, we chose to see the good? That's a huge shift if you can do it. Instead of being a fault finder, you're going to take a pause and choose to see the good. Imagine for a moment the power of becoming the love finder in some of those tough moments. You have that power. I could see peace instead of this. You hear me say that often. Imagine those moments where you're in the thick of it and you just shifted. In a holy instant, in a new moment, you became the love finder. You became the person, someone who's consciously seeking out what's right in the other person. If you become the person who chooses to focus on the positive rather than the negative. When you make that shift, everything changes, I promise you. Suddenly the tension becomes less, it begins to ease, and the relationship transforms because we're no longer focused on what's wrong. Instead, we're focused on what's good, what's possible. This is one of the keys to living uncommon. Dr. Bill, one of my favorite teachers, used to ask a profound question. And you've heard me ask this before as well. Are you a lifter? Mostly, generally. Are you a lifter or are you a leaner? He taught us that religious scientists are called to be the cheerleaders of life. We're not here to lean on other people or bring them down. We're here to lift. We're here to elevate everyone around us. To be a love finder is to be a lifter, to choose to see the divine in others, even in the most difficult situations. Again, to be a love finder is to be a lifter, to choose to see the divine in others, even in the most difficult of situations. Louise, who you all know I love and who studied here at First Church and was a practitioner here, often reminded us that we must start by forgiving ourselves. She would say, everyone is doing the best that they can with the information, the understanding, and the awareness that they have. So we understand that. Many of us found great comfort in those words. Everyone's doing the best they can with the consciousness, the understanding they have. So when we look at ourselves and others through the lens of compassion, then we stop blaming and we start healing. Again, when we look at others through the eyes of compassion, the lens of compassion, we stop blaming and we start healing. Let it begin with me. We say that often also. Let it always begin with ourselves. When we're looking at people in life through the eyes of compassion, we begin to see the love and forgiveness. We begin to see that the love and forgiveness are the pathways to growth, to connection, and to inner peace. Another important part of living uncommon is learning, as Dr. Bill used to say, to get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. Now, of course, he was really quoting Ralph Waldo Emerson. This means letting go of all the mental clutter, letting go of the doubts, the fears, the judgments, and all the nonsense. Let go of all the stuff that blocks the flow of the divine energy in our lives. I'd like you to imagine for a moment a just regular green garden hose. If the hose is bent or twisted, the water can't flow. But when you straighten it out, the water flows freely. The same is true for all of us. When we're weighed down by beliefs, fears, resentments, old stories, any of that kind of stuff, we block the flow of divine energy. But when we let it go, when we open ourselves up, that energy flows so freely, so beautifully, and the most amazing, amazing things begin to happen. This is the essence of living uncommon, or in an uncommon way. This is the essence of living this way and allowing the divine energy to move through us without restriction. When we clear the clutter from our minds and release judgments, worries, we make room for the miracles which are so natural to unfold in our lives. We step into the flow of the extraordinary, and we allow divine power to work through us in ways we never imagined even possible. One of the most extraordinary examples of someone who lived beyond limitation is Helen Keller. Many of you may recognize her name, but for those of you who don't, let me share a bit of her remarkable story. Helen Keller was born in 1880, and at just 19 months old, she had contracted an illness that left her both deaf and blind at just 19 months. Can you imagine that? Most people in her situation would have been written off by society, expected to live a life of isolation and silence. But Helen Keller was no ordinary person, as we all have learned. She had a fierce, unbreakable spirit, and she was blessed with an incredible teacher, Annie Sullivan. Through Sullivan's dedication and Keller's tenacity, a seemingly impossible journey began. Annie Sullivan worked tirelessly with Keller, teaching her language through the sense of touch. Think about that. She could write, she could speak through the sense of touch. Imagine trying to understand the world without sight or sound, only through feeling. Yet through Sullivan's guidance, Helen Keller not only learned to communicate, she learned to read Braille, and she even learned to speak. She defied every single expectation placed upon her. Helen Keller went on to school and graduated from Radcliffe College, and she became a world-renowned author. She became a lecturer and advocate for people with disabilities. Her life is a testament to the power of the human spirit, a person who refused to be limited by her circumstances. You might have seen the movie. It was called The Miracle Worker, which dramatizes the early part of her life and her relationship with Annie Sullivan. If you haven't watched it, I encourage you to check it out sometime. It's truly wonderful. It's a wonderful film that captures the essence of this extraordinary story. What makes Helen Keller's life truly remarkable is that she saw beyond her physical challenges and she discovered her oneness with the extraordinary. She understood that her spirit was limitless. She tapped into a source of divine wisdom that transcended her physical limitations, proving to the world that our circumstances do not define us. It's our spirit, it's our resilience, and our connection to the divine that makes everything possible. Helen Keller's life reminds us that living uncommon is more about just overcoming challenges. It's about transcending them. It's about opening ourselves up to the divine energy and wisdom that flows through us. She didn't allow her physical limitations to dictate her experience. She saw beyond them to the limitless potential of her spirit. And that's what we're all called to do here ourselves. This is what we're called to do, to see beyond the challenges, to know that we're always greater than anything we face, beyond the limitations that we placed on ourselves, and to tap into that limitless potential that's inside of every one of us. Helen Keller's journey reminds us that this divine wisdom, this source energy, is always present and always available to us, no matter what our circumstances may look like. It's up to us. It must begin with us. It's up to us to open ourselves to it and to trust it and to allow it to move through us. Let's now turn to a beautiful piece of poetry that speaks directly to the journey of living uncommon. This is a poem, a short poem by Mary Oliver that reminds us of the power that we have to trust our inner voice and to step into the life that we're meant to live. And here it is from her poem. One day, you finally knew what you had to do, and you began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, but you didn't stop. That's it. I'll say it again. One day, you finally knew what you had to do, and you began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, but you didn't stop that day. You see, Oliver's words remind us of the inner wisdom that speaks to each of us, even when the world around us tries to pull us in all kinds of different directions. Living uncommon means trusting that voice inside, the voice of your higher self, the voice of divine wisdom, no matter what others say. It's about moving forward confidently, boldly on your path, knowing that you are supported by something greater. So let's take a few more deep breaths together. Feeling once again the golden light surrounding you, supporting you, forever guiding you, always with you. With each inhale, allow yourself to feel more connected to that inner source, that inner voice. With each breath, more in tune with the divine guidance that flows through you. Oliver's words remind us that discovering your oneness with the extraordinary often requires walking a path that others may not understand. It's about following the voice within and trusting that it's leading you where you need to go. So let's also now remember Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, who wrote extensively about the divine connection, the divine nature that we have with this infinite intelligence. In his book, in the text, he reminds us there is power for good in the universe, greater than you are, and you can use it. Holmes emphasized that we're not separate from this power. It is within us, it's flowing through us, and we have the ability to use it for good in our lives. When we are discovering our oneness with the extraordinary, we're tapping into this infinite power. Holmes would encourage us to ask ourselves, what am I doing with this power? So I guess I'll ask everyone today, what am I doing, or what are you doing with this power? Are we using it to create a life of joy, peace, and abundance? Or are you letting fear and limitation block the flow? That's the question. What am I doing with this power? Am I using it to create a life of peace and joy and abundance? Or am I letting fear and limitation to block the flow? Living uncommon isn't about striving for something outside of yourself. It's about coming back. It's about coming back home to the truth of who you are. You are a unique expression of this one infinite energy that flows through everything. The power of I am is within you, guiding you, wooing you, supporting you, and lifting you to ever new heights. All you need to do is remember. Remember, I know that I am one with this infinite source, and all the power and love of the universe flows through me. Again, I know that I am one with this infinite source, that all the power and love of the universe flows through me. And next, I live in this energy, I move in it, I dwell in it, I have my being in it. I'll say the whole thing. I know that I'm one with this infinite source, that all the power and the love of the universe flows through me. And the second one was, I live in this energy, I move in it, I have my being in it. I am uncommon, I am wonderful, and I am extraordinary. Not because of what I do, but because of who I am. I release any fear, any doubt, any judgment that blocks the flow of this divine power, and I embrace my full potential. I'll say it again. I release any fear, doubt, or judgment that blocks the flow of this divine power, and I lovingly embrace my full potential. I choose to be a love finder, lifting myself up and others in the light of truth and compassion. I give thanks for the oneness that connects every single one of us, and I trust that I'm always guided, always supported, and deeply loved by the presence within me. And so it is. So as we transition into our sharing time today, I hope you've liked the lesson. I invite you to reflect on today's lesson. When it comes to your sharing, what does living uncommon mean to you? What came up for you in the lesson that you might want to share? How are you embracing your wonderfulness? How are you embracing your wonderful nature? How are you discovering your oneness with the extraordinary in your daily life? We'd love to hear from everyone as we open up the space for personal reflection. If you're new, please say hello so we can say hello back. You might say I'm hello, and where you're from. And I look forward to hearing everybody at the other side of the break. Thank you all for being with us.